G'day everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel, the footy tipping. We're back for 2024. It's always a fan favourite, of course, on the channel each week, as I'll be going over my opening round tips in this video today. It feels weird that the season is literally only 3 days away from kicking off at the time of recording this video, but of course I'm really keen for the season to start, especially with the different start to the year with the opening round. It's been plenty of controversy about it, a lot of people are against it with the 4 games just for this week, but I think what we can all agree upon is these matchups are really good looking, so I think we're going to get some good quality footy to start off the season. So let's get into the tips, but just quickly I want to go over the tipping competition. If you are yet to join, first link in the description down below. Feel free to join, it's absolutely free to take part, and of course there's always going to be cash prizes for the top finishers. And if you have already joined before in the past and you haven't manually left, don't worry, you'll still be in there. It carries over year by year, but make sure to get involved in that tipping comp, because this year I am wanting to bring back updates with that tipping competition, seeing what the top 10 is looking like each week, and also shouting out some of the best tippers of each week, maybe some tipsters who got 9 out of 9, etc. So yeah, definitely want to bring that back this year. But enough of me yapping, let's get into more yapping of the tips for this week. Just the 4 games, as I said before, but yeah, really good looking matchups. So feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you do go on to enjoy, and let's get started. And as a 𝐼𝐴𝐴𝐴 supporter, I could not be happier to see my team kick off the season in hopefully good style against the Melbourne Football Club at the SCG Thursday night football. Cracking matchup this one should be. I think both these teams have built quite a solid rivalry the past few seasons or so now. It's just some good quality footy. These two sides always seem to play against each other. Obviously the Swans have had the occasional wood over the Ds, whilst Melbourne, the last 2 times, have been able to win well over the Swannies. So yeah, I think head-to-head wise, it's looking quite even. It could go really either way. Melbourne, throughout the past few weeks, have been outsiders, but with the Swannies' personnel issues as of late, no Taylor Adams, no Macca Mills, of course, and now no Luke Parker. That's probably 3 of their best looking inside midfielders out of the team. So with Melbourne, we all know they're a strong contested side. They're actually heading into this game as the slight favourites. Swannies definitely have to get that midfield mix right, because I can't say it enough. Melbourne's midfield, especially against the weaker sides, if they can get on top of that contested game, they can really cruise in a game of football. But there are still some issues probably with Melbourne, looking at them in their forward line. You know, who's going to be the important man to kick their goals? Will Jacob Van Rooyen have to take most of the onus? No Jake Melksham, of course, no 𝐼𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐿, so they're going to have to really get that structure right. But you know, we like to say don't look at preseason too much, but against the Blues, I felt they got that structure really nicely. They moved Salomon in the midfield. They were picking apart targets really nicely inside 50, so they'll need to do that against a Swans back 6 that can defend quite well collectively as a defensive unit. They are able to usually rebound quite nicely out of there, but when we look at Melbourne's defence, on the other hand, they are still going to be a really strong unit. They're one of the top intercepting teams in the comp, and when you allow the Demons to intercept, they can be a really damaging team off the turnover. And I think watching the Swans a lot last year, they did that too often. They allowed opposition to just intercept way too much, especially against the Demons twice last year. So I think for the Swans, they just can't afford to boot it long. You know, Tom Papley and Sam Wicks, their smalls will have to really get to work. McLean and McDonald bringing it to ground. So yeah, I think for the Swans, if they want to win this game of football, we all know their ball movement in the SCG is very good. They're going to have to bring that, and they're going to have to somehow break even in that contest, because with those midfield casualties, the likes of Chad Warner, Rowbottom will really have to dig deep. Will someone like an 𝐼𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐿 𝐻𝐿𝐴, who can play midfield, play a little bit more midfield in this game? In terms of personnel for the Ds, I know that Blake Howes and Caleb Windsor has been showing some great signs on the wing for Melbourne, are going to make their debuts. Jack Billings as well is also going to make his debut in Melbourne colours. He was showing some really good signs as well as that high half forward. Who wins this game of football? It's a tough one. Melbourne have gotten the wood over the Swans the past few times, but the Swannies at the SCG, you feel like could be just too good with that ball movement. So yeah, it's a tricky one to tip, but I just think with those Swans outs, it has really made me a bit sceptical on if the Swans can actually win this game, because I think, you know, the midfield has been a big issue for the Swans last year, and with the off-season they've recruited well, but now with Adams out, Parker out, Mills out, I don't know, I think Melbourne, especially with Oliver back in, could really take control, and if they are able to intercept well in their back half and just able to find avenues to goal, I think they could win this game of football. But for me, I just think the Swannies will be too good. I am going to be going with my heart. I know Melbourne are very capable of winning this game of football, and my confidence is sort of hindered a bit with the personnel outs. But I just think with our ball movement and the SCG, you know, Papley back in the side as well, I think we'll get to work. And just, I think when you look at each other's forward lines, the Swans definitely do look the goods. So really 50-50 game. Could see this result going either way. So I'm going to be going the Bloods in a tight one by 9 points. And now for Friday night football, the preliminary final rematch from last season, the Brisbane Lions against the Carlton Football Club. Lions are warm favourites heading this game right off the bat. They are 91% tipped on ESPN, which is quite crazy for an opening game of the season where Carlton is just so highly rated heading into this year. I do have my doubts personally about the Blues, but I think they're definitely going to be a chance to rival for the top 4 this season. But where I have issues with them for the start of the year is no 𝐓𝐿𝐴 𝐻𝐵, no Sam Walsh, especially when we're looking in the pre-season games for Carlton. I was just unsure about their defence. You know, Lewis Young, Brodie Kemp, those sort of likes. Will they be able to hold down the tops of Joe Daniher and Eric Hipwood and just the Lions' high-octane forward half? I just have so many questions on that. So for me, it just gives me really good confidence to tip at Brisbane here. If we want to talk about a way of how Carlton could win this game, well, it just needs to be firepower from the forward half. No Jesse Motlop either, though, so always has to really get to work. Macca will have to bring his shooting boots. 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐴 as well will have to try and really influence the game. And just around the midfield too, they've just really got to try and get on top. I think when we think of Carlton at their best, it's about that dominant stoppage work, as well as bring really high heat and intensity around the football. But Brisbane are heading into this season looking like one of the best teams in the comp. They looked really convincing in their pre-season games. Full strength side, they were looking quite good in the midfield. They just look like a clean side once again from what we did witness in those pre-season games. So for me, I don't think I really need to talk about this tip for too long. I want to try and think that Carlton can win this game of football, but no Walsh, and especially no Wiedering holding down their back half has me have big questions against the side of Brisbane, who didn't lose a game at home last year and are a very prolific scoring side. So I think Brisbane head into this game and really play some good football, and I think they win this game convincingly. I think this one could, probably not a blowout, but they just win this game comfortably. So Brisbane get the win here over the Blues, and I'm going to be going the Lions by 32 points. And now for the third game of opening round, the Gold Coast Suns hosting the Richmond Tigers at Metricon Stadium. Always an interesting rivalry, this one. There's always some classic games sprinkled between the Suns and the Tigers. Gold Coast had some good quality performances over Richmond the past few seasons now. They got the win over them last year at Marvel Stadium, so they do have the wood over them as of late, and they are heading into this game as slight favourites. I think if we're looking at this game around a month ago, we're probably thinking Gold Coast all the way, but I mean, we don't want to say again, don't look at the preseason too much, but they just looked very unconvincing in their preseason games. And I think as fans, it makes us think, well, how long will it take for the players to adopt Damien Hardwick's new scheme? If the Suns want to get on top of this game, they've got to really take control of that midfield. They were a top 4 clearance side from last year, so the likes of Tuke Miller and Anderson, Rowell, Flanders now sprinkled in there, where Hardwick has sung his praises plenty of times in this preseason. Will really have to get to work and try and get on top. Ben King really has to be strong in the air, and I am really interested to see how Gold Coast will go with their smalls, especially with Hardwick as the new coach. He wants to get the most out of those sort of role plays, so you know, Holman and Ainsworth will really have to show their best, and will they be able to execute well in their forward half? That was probably a bit of an issue last year for Gold Coast, just a bit inconsistent with scoring from those sorts of players. And as for the Tigers, they will be without Tom Lynch. Their pre-season game in terms of hitting the scoreboard well didn't look too great, so 𝐼𝐿𝐴 and Samson Ryan, if he's going to play down forward there, will have to really bring their shooting boots, as well as Noah Bolter, who will be playing more forward this year. They'll just have to really execute well in their forward half. This was probably one of their biggest issues last year when we looked at Richmond, so I think it's just really making the most of their inside 50 entries. They are one of the best rebound teams from their defensive 50, so if they can play that really strong attacking style, quick style, where the Tigers have always been quite good, well, they have a chance to really shake up Gold Coast here in this first round. And if they can break even in that contest as well, if Taranto can bring his best, Thompson Dowd looked very good too. Liam Baker going to be spending a bit more time in the midfield, and you know, a player like Shea Bolton, if he can break the game, he could be a heavy influence for Richmond in this game. So I think this game is going to be a lot closer than what people think. I know that for my predictions, I have had Richmond in the bottom 4. You know, if they're able to break in that midfield, and, you know, as a back 6 with the likes of JDOD, 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐪, if they can really tack well from their back half, they have a chance to win this game of football. But I just look at Gold Coast at home. They're overall a pretty strong side there. I think their midfield can get on top. And I just have some high expectations for some of those plays in their front half. So Gold Coast, I'm going to be tipping in this game with that home field advantage being the predominant reason, I feel. So yeah, Gold Coast. Close game of football, this one. I think some people will probably be going Gold Coast maybe a bit by quite a convincing margin, but I think Richmond really bring it up to them, but Gold Coast too good in the end. So we'll go the Suns by 14 points. And now for the final game of the opening round, we have GWS taking on the Pies at Giants Stadium. Another prelim final rematch, of course, from last season. There's been plenty of noise heading to this game of could the Giants get their preliminary final revenge from last year. It was just such a great game, honestly. Still cannot get that out of my head, what a game that was from last season. But I think this one is a very good chance of being the most exciting game of the whole round, given that these two teams, strong defense, really good on the counter, and just their ability to move the football and score high amounts of points is definitely some of their strengths when looking at either team. So this one could be a bit of a shootout. I really could see that. When we look at the forward versus defensive matchups for really either side, it's really intriguing to look at. No Dan McStay does leave me probably a bit of concerns for Collingwood in the long term, but if someone like an Us Johnson is able to play a really good game, most likely on a player like Jack Buckley, that could be a really game-changing matchup. The smalls of Collingwood as well, Bobby Hill, 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿, they're going to be big if Collingwood want to put on a good score. So the likes, of course, of Connor Idun, he had some great games last year, and he's looking stronger than ever from looking at those preseason games last week. And then when we look at the Giants forward line, well, Toby Green, Bedford, Daniels, those three smalls just get to work so well, and they were looking really sharp in their preseason hit out against Gold Coast. And Jesse Hogan as well, I think this is a player we can't write off. He kicked 49 goals last year. Still think he's going to be really important as that player that's going to be the hotspot when the Giants go inside 50. And then the midfield matchups is going to be a really interesting one. Who can win that battle? That's going to be, I think, one of the big factors on who gets on top of this game. The Giants definitely don't want the likes of Darcy Moore to really control the skies in this game. If you just don't allow the Pies to intercept that often and bring the footy to ground, where GWS are very good in transition, that's definitely going to be a key part if the Giants are going to win this game of football. And then looking at Collingwood, of course, the midfield will definitely want to get on top of that strong-looking GWS midfield core. Especially they do want to move the footy with haste like they were able to do so well last year, and just really pick out their targets well when going inside 50 and getting those goals out the back. So yeah, this one's a really tricky one to tip. When you look at the best from either side, it's like, oh, this one could really go down to the wire, but it's just going to be who is going to be the more efficient side most likely on the night. And one thing we can't, of course, forget when looking at the Pies, they just always have that strong mental edge. They are always in games, and even when they're not playing their best, they can, in a patch of 15 or 20 minutes, turn a game on its head, really play some fast quality and really quick football, and get on top. So, yeah, this one's a really tricky one to tip, but I just think when looking at the Giants at home, you know, looking at their midfield, I think they can get on top, and just their back six as well is a really strong looking core of their side. So, I'm going to be going with GWS here. I think they just get the edge over the Pies. This one could really go either way, but I'm liking GWS heading into this game. So, the Giants get the win over the Pies in a close game of football. High scoring shootout. I reckon both teams kick over 100 points here. We're going to be going GWS by 10 points. So over and there are my opening round tips for the 2024 AFL season. Really keen for the season to kick off this week. I'm going to be streaming every single game live of this opening round, so stay tuned on the channel if you want to come by and say hi, listen to my commentary, listen to my Swans nothingness on Thursday night. There's going to be plenty of that. That is definitely safe to be said. But yeah, as I say again, I'm excited. I'm excited to see how this opening round does go. The matchups are looking good, so hopefully we witness some good quality footy. Feel free to comment down your tips in the comment section if you do wish, as I do like to hear all your people's opinions. And yeah, apart from that, hopefully you did enjoy, and until next time, I will talk to you later. See you later, fellas.